I'm sure we've all noticed the rising cost of prices of our goods lately. But do you know that that has a name? It's called inflation. Hello, my name is Betty Ford. I'm a business administration and business accounting student, and I'm here to explain inflation to you. John Smith explains what inflation is in his article for Forbes.com titled How Inflation Erodes the Value of Money. He says inflation is the gradual rise in prices and slow decline in purchasing power of your dollars over time. Inflation can actually decrease the time value of your dollar. One great example of this is that we all can relate to is how the price of milk has increased over time. In 1913, a gallon of milk cost about 36 cents per gallon. 100 years later, in 2013, a gallon of milk costs $3.53, nearly 10 times higher. That 36 cents can no longer buy a gallon of milk, therefore the value of that 36 cents has decreased. But while some of us can look at the rising cost of goods and prices and get depressed, there are those who see inflation as a good thing. Inflation is viewed as positive when it helps to boost consumer demand and consumption, driving economic growth. Some believe inflation is meant to keep deflation in check, while others think inflation is a drag on the economy, says Sean Ross in his article titled, When is Inflation Good for the Economy? However, when inflation is too high, of course, it is not good for the economy or individuals. Inflation will always reduce the value of money, unless interest rates are higher than inflation. And the higher inflation gets, the less chance there is that savers will see any real return on their money. Now, I know some of you may blame our current president on the recent inflation. However, while politicians can make decisions that contribute to inflation, we were headed toward an inflation no matter who won the presidency. When COVID hit and everyone was ordered to stay home, and no one went anywhere, and they were able to save money, and the demand for certain things went down. We also were able to save by staying home and keeping some of our stimulus money in our savings accounts. Now life is slowly getting back to normal and everyone is opening back up. People are going out, going on vacation, going to concerts, traveling. Our demand is increasing. As the demand for a particular good or service increases, the available supply decreases. When fewer items are available, consumers are willing to pay more to obtain them, as outlined in the economic principle of supply and demand. The result is higher prices due to demand pull inflation. We also can blame our money supply. In one example, the stimulus payments. Increasing the money supply faster than the growth in real output will cause inflation. The reason is that there is more money chasing the same number of goods. Therefore, the increase in monetary demand causes firms to put up prices. So inflation will be something, no matter who lived in the White House right now. But can we control inflation? Evan Traver tells us how our government is controlled. He says in his article he wrote for Investopia titled, What Impact Does Inflation Have on the Dollar Value Today? One of the Federal Reserve's chief responsibilities is to monitor and control the inflation. The Fed aims to keep inflation rate around 2%. The Fed does to manage inflation are federal funds rate, the reserve requirements, and the money supply reduction. The Fed funds rate is the rate at which banks can borrow money from the government. To help curb rising inflation, the Fed will increase rates, which inherently increases interest rates charged by banks. This helps slow spending and forces prices lower, helping keep inflation in check. Then there is the reserve requirement, which is the amount capital banks must keep on hand. To curb spending and inflation, the Fed can increase the reserve requirement, which decreases the amount of money banks have available to lend. Finally, there's money supply, which involves the Fed directly influencing the amount of money in circulation by issuing or calling in bonds, which help reduce the amount of money in circulation. The Fed measures inflation by monitoring and tracking various indexes, specifically price indexes that track price changes of particular goods and services. The main index used by the Fed includes the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index that put out by the Department of Commerce. The PCE index has a variety of goods and services that are part of household spending, but it does consult other indexes, such as the Department of Labor's Consumer Price and Producer Price indexes. Now, while the Fed tries to keep our rate at 2%, do you know what the current inflation rate is? The annual inflation rate for the United States is 4.2%. for the 12 months ended April 2021 after rising 2.6 previously, according to the U.S. Labor Department data published May 12th. The next inflation update is scheduled for release on June 10th at 8:30 a.m. However, our inflation rate has been much higher before. Since States in 1776, the highest year-over-year inflation rate observed was 29.78% in 1778. In the period of time since the introduction of the CPI, the highest inflation rate observed was 19.66% in 1917. You've noticed how much prices have increased on goods like food, gas, or clothes. Remember, this has a name, and it can be caused by an increase in demand and an increase in the supply of money. But also remember that it will not be like this forever. Inflation rate has gone up and gone down for years, as it is our government's job to control it. So be sure to watch and see what our government does next to help control it. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Thank you.